Dear second year students, though your examination is knocking at the door, that is the monthly test, but still I have decided to continue another poem. The title of the poem is the Ballad of Father Gilligan. The Ballad of Father Gilligan, written by W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, one of the modern poets. So, just before going through the poem, I want to tell you about the forms of poem, especially what is a ballad, the definition of the ballad, and its short history. So, a ballad is a poem having a story. First of all, you have to keep it in memory that ballad is a poem having a story. The story is the story of the medieval time. It is a literary ballad, a traditional ballad. Normally the modern poets write literary ballads basing on a beautiful story, the story of the medieval time. In the medieval time, the story was orally told, that was oral, that had an oral form. But later on, that was recorded, and finally the modern poets, even if the romantic poets have written the lyrical ballads, the traditional ballads. I have taught you one ballad in first year class. The name of the ballad is The Escape Rock by Robert Southey, one of the romantic poets. Robert Southey is a romantic poet, no doubt, but here W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, a very powerful writer, a genius, has written this particular ballad basing on a story, a religious story, or he has already gone back to the medieval time in order to collect this story. Dear students, I want to say that the ballad is a form of poem having a story, and the story refers to the medieval time. It has a different pattern. The story has the story in the form of a poem has a different pattern. I will tell you all these things. But first of all, W.B. Yeats has already paid his homage. He has paid his homage to the traditional ballad, and that is a revival. The ballad form is revived. You don't know that the modern poetry is a curious mixture. It is a kaleidoscopic picture. It is a curious mixture of realism, romanticism, surrealism, mysticism, nihilism, idealism, supernaturalism, and all these things are there in modern poetry. But still, the modern poets, some of the modern poets have gone back to the medieval time in order to collect the story, in order to find the story, which was in oral form. In medieval time, the story was told, but that was not written, most of the stories. But later on, the story was written, that came to a written form, and W.B. Yeats has already gone back to the medieval time, to collect the story, the essence of the story, the gist of the story, in order to make his poem rich. The name of the poem is the Ballad of Father Gilligan. Dear students, I want to say, many forms of poems are there, many kinds of poems are there. One is a sonnet. A sonnet is having 14 lines. A sonnet is a poem having 14 lines, and sonnets are of two types, English sonnet and Italian sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet or Petrarchan sonnet. But you should know that a sonnet is having only 14 lines. In Petrarchan sonnet, you will find one octave and one sestet, and there is a pause in between the two. There is a pause, P-A-U-S-E. There is a pause in between the two, the octave and the sestet. Octave contains 8 lines and the sestet contains 6 lines. But in Shakespearean sonnet, that is called English sonnet, it is also having 14 lines, and it has no octave and sestet and pause. The Shakespearean sonnet is having 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. Having 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. The rhyme scheme of Shakespearean sonnet is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. The rhyme scheme A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. 14 lines. And the rhyme scheme of Petrarchan sonnet or Italian sonnet is rhyme scheme A B B A B B A C D C D. A B B A B B A 8 lines. These 8 lines refer to the octave, and the C D C D refers to the sestet. So there is a pause in between the two because the thought is shifted. The thought is shifted from octave to sestet. Very peculiar poem this sonnet is. Especially you have to know that lyrical poem, which is full of lyricism, full of lucidity, softness, tenderness, is a very good poem. Normally, this lyrical song or lyrical poem is sung in the pastoral sides or in the Wessex countrysides. This is also a dancing song. This ballad is a dancing song. And most of the ballads are sung with the accompaniment of dance. With dance. That is why it is called, the ballad is called a dancing song. Other than sonnet, there is an elegy. Elegy is a death poem. It is a very sad poem, melancholic poem, the poem of rejection. And it gives elegiac feeling. It gives sad feeling. It gives melancholic feeling. It gives the feeling of desolation. It gives the feeling of an elegy, that is called elegiac feeling, very sad feeling. And you come to another poem which is Ode, O-D-E. Ode is a very powerful poem. It is called an address poem. Ode is called an address poem, having exalted theme and elevated thought. Ode is having an exalted theme and elevated thought. Odes are many. In English literature, you will find many odes. Odes written by John Keats, ode written by P.B. Shelley, ode written by William Wordsworth, ode to intimations of immortality, that is Wordsworthian creation, ode to West Wind by P.B. Shelley, ode to the Skylark by P.B. Shelley, and 6 major odes have already been written by John Keats. So in English literature you will find many odes. Odes are a very powerful poem and they are called address poems. First of all, there is address, there is invocation, there is a call. Either it may be animate thing or inanimate, no doubt. Either it is living being or non-living creature. But there must be an invocation or there must be an address in the first part of the poem. And that is why an ode is called an address poem, having exalted theme and elevated thought. You do know. Ode, elegy, lyrical poem has gone, lyrical poem, ode has gone, sonnet has gone. Sonnet is also a poem. Sonnet, I have told you, having 14 lines. And another forms of poems, heroic couplet is another form of poem. Idli is another form of poem. And so many poems are there. But today, the focus is on the Ballad of Father Gilligan, which is written by W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, a man of symbols. Dear students, I have written a book in English on W.B. Yeats. The name of the book is Esoteric Yeatsism. You might have heard the name of the book or you might have seen the book. The name of the book is Esoteric Yeatsism, that is written by me. Anyhow, if you have time, you will come in contact with the book and find the essence of what the book is or what the book says. So, I want to tell you that this is a traditional ballad and W.B. Yeats has already paid his homage. He has already paid his tribute. He has shown his love for this traditional ballad, and that the theme of the poem has been derived from the Middle Age. It has been derived from the medieval time, the theme of the poem. And you mark, so this particular poem is written in quatrain form. The poem is written in quatrain form. Normally, a ballad comprises many stanzas, no doubt. A stanza sometimes is having 2 lines. But here, the ballad is having 4 lines. And the ballad is having 4 lines in every stanza. In every stanza, we will find 4 lines. And the second and the fourth lines rhyme each other. But the first and the third line will never rhyme. The first and the third line will never rhyme. You will never find a rhyme scheme in the first and second line. But in the third and fourth line, you have that rhyme scheme, that is the ballad form. But here we will see a quatrain. That means each stanza is a quatrain. 4 lines are there. Many stanzas are there. I will come across. I will also tell you. And I want to tell you bit by bit what the poem is, why the poem has been written, why W.B. Yeats has already given such type of a religious feeling, spiritual feeling. And I will also give you the examples, cite many examples, and also want to make you convinced about the thing, what is there in the poem. So, dear students, the particular poem is written in the tetra and trimeter. The particular poem, the Ballad of Father Gilligan, is written in the tetra and trimeter. So, tetra is having 8 syllables and the tri is having 6 syllables. 4 feet and 3 feet. You mark the first and third lines. Normally, the first and third lines of the quatrain have 8 syllables, and the second and fourth lines have 6 syllables. That is why the poem is written in the tetra and trimeter. Rhyme scheme, you will get rhyme scheme. The second line and the fourth line will rhyme each other. But the first and second line will never rhyme. You mark. I want to say that the ballad is based on a folklore, F-O-L-K-L-O-R-E. A ballad is based on a folklore or a legend, traditional thing, a folktale, F-O-L-K-T-A-L-E, folktale. Since it is a medieval story, since it is a story of the Middle Age, the poet has focused his attention, or the poet has given rise to the folktale, folklore, legends, traditions, and most of the things associated with the ballad form. Very important point, ballad. You will get a very beautiful story. So this story gives rise to the religious ideas. It will tell you the religious thing, religious ideas. The story is about Peter Gilligan, the father Gilligan, a churchman, a bishop, a father Gilligan. And how? You will mark, God is always merciful. God is always merciful. And who works for him, a man who works for him, God helps him very much. What God does is good for us. What God does is good for us. But everything is predestined. Everything is premeditated. So, character becomes destiny sometimes, but in most of the times you will find that destiny becomes character. Destiny becomes character because destiny will guide you. Destiny will give you guidance. Destiny will make you happy. Destiny will make you unhappy. That is the duty of the destiny, function of the destiny. So a man is endowed with. The man has a destiny no doubt. Sometimes the destiny becomes more powerful, and the destiny is a character itself. And most of the critics have already pointed out that the character becomes a destiny. Most of the characters I have already said. In Shakespearean dramas, in Shakespearean plays, you will find that the characters become a destiny because they guide their own destiny. They guide their own luck. They guide their own fortune. They guide their own future. But when destiny becomes the character, the destiny is more powerful. The destiny is more powerful than the character itself. And that is why destiny has to play an important role, a significant role, a vital role in the life of the human being. Normally that is done. Because we are His creation. We are the creations of God. We are the His creations. And He has given us that destiny which is important in guiding the human character or in shaping the human future, the future of the human being, the human character, and all these things are there. These things have been narrated in the poem, the Ballad of Padhi Gilligan. So it has a religious tone. You will find a religious tone, a spiritual, you will get a religious tone. And the tone is sad and depressing. The tone of the poem is sad and depressing. And you should think that the God is always merciful. God is always benevolent. God is always merciful. And He showers blessings on the human being. He showers blessings, remaining away from the human beings, remaining away from the creation, remaining away from the planet. He showers remaining away from the universe. He showers blessings on the human beings. And you might have come across the biblical theme, that is the creation of mankind, the creation of Adam and Eve, the creation of Adam and Eve. Then there is a very beautiful poem written by George Herbert. There is a very beautiful poem written by George Herbert. The name of the poem is Pulley. So in that Pulley, how God showers blessings on the human being when the mankind is created. First of all, Adam and Eve are there in the paradise. You don't know. Adam and Eve were there in the paradise. And then the creation of mankind was possible only because of God and Satan. One of the friends, Satan, one of the friends of God. And finally, he was dropped to the hell. And he wanted to take revenge. And in the meantime, the creation was made. Human creation. And God was there. He was bound to shower blessings on the human being. How to man, how to manage, how to sustain, all these things are there. And God kept everything in memory, everything in his mind, and showered blessings on the human earth, on this planet, or on the human beings. And however you mark, so this is about a countryside. This is about a pastoral countryside. This is about a Wessex countryside. That is in England, you will find. So in England, this is a W.B. Yeats is an Irish poet. You mark. W.B. Yeats is an Irish poet. He belongs to Ireland. And his poems are full of symbols, allegories, esotericism. Many things are there. Very romantic poem. W.B. Yeats is called a romantic poet in modern days. W.B. Yeats is called a romantic poet in modern days. I have told you that it is a kaleidoscopic picture modern poetry, or it is a curious mixture. You will find all the isms there. Nihilism, surrealism, mysticism, romanticism, atheism, theism. So all the isms are there in modern poetry. So many things are there in modern poetry. So in modern poetry, you will get many isms. But here, W.B. Yeats has written this poem in a different text. The poem has given you a different text. And you will find the religious tone. You will find the religious tone, a spiritual idea, religious tone related to the poem, or religious tone which is attached, or which has been inculcated in the poem, that has been instilled in the poem, that has already been given, that has already been there in the poem. That is the Ballad of the Father Gilligan. So, the poem, I will tell you the story, but there is a divine intervention, you mark. There is a divine intervention in human life. In human action, you will find a divine intervention. Divine is there. So T.S. Eliot once upon a time has written in one of his poems named Prelude. Prelude is a short poem having 4 parts. A prelude is a short poem of T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot has written the prelude. I am not telling you about William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth has written preludes, and they are 14 in numbers. But T.S. Eliot has written one prelude having 4 parts. In that prelude, he has already pointed out that how God is tossing with a blanket and seeing everything what is going on. God is tossing with a blanket and seeing everything what is going on. So that is why God is omnipotent. God is omnipresent. God is omniscient. S-C-I-E-N-T. Omni, O-M-N-I, hyphen. God is omniscient. God is omnipresent. God is omnipotent. And everywhere, in every time, every moment, you will see there is divine intervention. There is divine intervention, and the poem has said so. The poem has given so. There is divine intervention. And Ballad of Father Gilligan has already given, the Ballad of Father Gilligan has already given a character named Father Gilligan, a churchman, a bishop, a pious man, a sacred soul. He is called a sacred soul. Basing on the particular poem has based on the folklore, folktale I have told you. This is a ballad. This is not a ballade. B-A-L-L-A-D-E. Ballade is another form. Ballade. B-A-L-L-A-D-E. This is not a ballade, but this is a ballad. B-A-L-L-A-D. Ballade you will find there in France. French poem. Ballade. B-A-L-L-A-D-E. But here you have a ballad, and that ballad comprises many quatrains. Many quatrains are there in the poem, and every quatrain is having 4 lines, and the poem is written in the tetra and trimeter, and there are, in tetra there are 8 syllables, in tetra, in tri you will have 6 syllables, 8 syllables and 6 syllables. And the rhyme scheme I am telling about, the second and the fourth lines rhyme each other. The second and the fourth lines rhyme each other. You mark the first stanza, day and lay. But the first line Gilligan and the third line beds, they do not rhyme. Only the second and fourth line, the second and the fourth lines rhyme each other. And that is the form of the ballad. And in some ballad we see, in some ballads we see that the stanza pattern is different. The stanza pattern is different. The stanza will comprise only 2 lines. The stanza will comprise only 2 lines. But in ballad, 8 lines stanza. A stanza comprises 8 lines. The last 4 lines. So that is a ballad, but that is not a ballad. But here you will have a very beautiful ballad. Beautiful ballad. And you will mark the Protestant and Catholic religion also in the instance or in the thing sometimes that we come across in W.B. Yeats's poem, and in the poem given to you. That is the ballad of the Father Gilligan. So I have told you, ballad, this ballad gives you a character, very good character, religious character, a pious man, a sacred soul. The ballad has given. And he is in charge of, you mark, the man is in charge of a parish, P-A-R-I-S-H, parish. What is a parish? Parish is a place. Parish is the name of the villages. Parish is a small principality. It is like a principality, or it is like a small place. And that has already gheraued the church. That parish has gheraued the church. That means that the parish is adjacent to the church itself, where bishop is working, or where the churchman is working. And he is in charge of a parish, P-A-R-I-S-H. And parishioners are there, P-A-R-I-S-H-I-O-N-E-R-S, parishioners. So the people who dwell there in a parish, the people who domicile there in a parish, the people who stay there in a parish, who are the permanent inhabitants of a parish, are called parishioners, you mark. The permanent inhabitants of a parish are called parishioners. And the parishioners are in charge of the bishop. The parish is in charge of the bishop, and he understands their problem. He comes across their problems, the problems of the villagers, the problems of the parish, the problems of the parishioners, and want to give help, provide help to them. During the epidemic, during the pandemic, the churchman or the bishop comes forward to help the poor people, to help the poverty-stricken people, poor people, dilapidated, downtrodden, suppressed, oppressed. The man comes forward. The story is the Father Gilligan has rendered his services. Father Gilligan has rendered his services days and nights together. For days and nights he has rendered his services. And he is very feeble, he is very weak, he is very tired. He is very tired, very weak. Sometimes he becomes hungry. He has no rest, no peace, no joy. Because it is a serious pandemic, it is a serious epidemic. The people are dying and dying. His parishioners are dying and dying. He has rendered services. He has provided services for these poor men, and tried his best to rescue them from danger. to keep them away from the danger, to keep them away from death, because death has already spread. The death has already spread its clutch in that parish, and the Father Gilligan wants to save the human beings or want to save the parishioners from the cruel clutch of death. From the cruel clutch of death, clutch, C-L-A-W-S. From the cruel clutch of death, Father Gilligan wants to save the parishioners. And one day, while he was nodding on the chair in the evening, that was the moth hour of the evening. That was the moth hour of the evening when the Father Gilligan was dozing, when Father Gilligan was having his nap, when Father Gilligan was having his siesta, he was having his siesta. By the time, a poor man sent for him. But he, in his ignorance, produced his grievance, told his grievance that he had no joy, no peace, no rest. How could he serve? How could he serve him? How could he serve the sick man's? How could he serve the sick man? So that was a problem for him. But when he came to realization, that means when he realized in the early part of the morning, again the moth hour came, and the Father Gilligan rushed to the poor man's house and saw and heard that the poor man had already gone. The poor man had already passed away. The poor man has already gone, you mark. And he got a very beautiful idea, he got a very beautiful message that the poor man's wife told the Father Gilligan as to why he came for the second time. As to why he came for the second time. Because after his departure at night, her husband died. The poor man died. He died peacefully. He had a happy death. He died happy, he died happily. Both are correct. He died happy, he died happily. Both are correct. Socrates died happy. Socrates died happily when he was taking poison. So he died happy or he died happily, both are correct. So however, Father Gilligan heard that just after his departure from his house, the sick man's house, the sick man died. And he died merrily. In which way? As merry as a bird. In W.B. Yeats's poem, you will see the bird is a symbol. The rose is a symbol. Other flowers are the symbols, full of symbols. So, you will read the esoteric Yeatsism if you have time, and you will see how many symbols are there. W.B. Yeats has already used in most of his poems. But this poem is having a different taste. It is written in a different way. So, this is a religious poem. Spiritual poem, religious poem. And dear students, when he heard that after his departure, the sick man had died, he could not find out. He could not find out the head or tail of it. He could not understand, make out the head or tail of it. Who served the poor man that night? Who served the poor man that night? He pondered a lot. He thought a lot. And finally came to conclusion that God sent an angel in his form. In his form, God had already sent an angel to serve on behalf of Father Gilligan. You mark. On behalf of Father Gilligan, God had already sent an angel. God knows everything. God keeps in memory everything. God keeps everything in his memory. And when one is dozing, when one is very tired, when one is very tired, when one is very feeble, by the time God has already sent an angel to serve on behalf of him. And the angel has taken the form of Father Gilligan. The angel has taken the form of Father Gilligan. He resembles Father Gilligan. He takes after Father Gilligan. And the sick man's wife could not find out whether Father Gilligan had already gone to that place or anybody else, because that angel sent by God had taken the form of Father Gilligan. So, Father Gilligan, knowing this, suddenly, all on a sudden, knelt and sent a silent prayer to God. God, who has already made this planet, this universe, has never forgotten a silly thing, has never forgotten a very insignificant thing, has never forgotten a banal thing, B-A-N-A-L, very small thing. Because God knows everything. What is going on the earth? What is there on the earth? God knows everything. So you do know, in the poem you have already come across, the Inchcap rock. So one who digs a grave for others falls in that grave. So a criminal is to be penalized. God does that. You have seen many jatras. The villains are punished. The devils are punished. But the hero triumphs. When the hero dies, that becomes a tragedy. When the heroine dies, that becomes a tragedy, no doubt. But the villains get punishment. The devils get punishment. That is the law of God. God has its world. This world is governed by God, somebody. We have never seen God. We have never seen AR. Have you seen AR? No. You will never see AR. It is unseen. It is not. It is felt, but it cannot be seen. So you will feel the presence of God. Mark. You will feel the presence of God, but you cannot see it. You cannot see Him. Capital H. You cannot see Him, but you will feel, just like that you are feeling the wind. You do feel the wind, the air. But you mark, during the storm, during the tempest, during the tornado, you mark, you cannot resist the virulent air, the forceful air, the speedy air, or the rage, R-A-G-E, rage of the wind during that time. We do not see that, but it is powerful. You mark how mysterious this earth is, how mysterious this planet is, how mysterious this creation is. You mark. We do not see, but it is very powerful. It is very virulent. It is very violent. We do not see. So God is never seen, but it is felt, or He is felt. We sometimes feel the presence of God. I have told you in the last class that there is the presence of God in the world of nature. God is everywhere, omnipresent. God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. Everywhere He is there. So in water, in air, on this planet, in tree, in the bar, in the pillar, you will see the presence of God. Everywhere God is there. It is watching what is going on. So T.S. Eliot has pointed out, God is tossing with a blanket and seeing everything what is going on there on the earth. That is very important. So dear students, there is divine intervention. There is divine intervention, you mark. And the thing is about the parishioners or about the parish. About the parishioners or about the parish. And the tone of the poem is sad and depressing, you mark. The tone of the poem is sad and depressing, and sometimes the mercy of God cannot be negated. The mercy of God. God is always kind and benevolent. Just like nature. Nature is God, God is nature. Nature is beautiful, beautiful is nature. Nature is beautiful, beautiful is nature. God is beautiful, God is nature, nature is God. So that is why we find the mercy of God. We find the blessings of God. Without the blessings, you cannot go ahead. So everything is predestined, everything is premeditated, everything is written, you mark, everything is written. So dear students, sometimes the ballad is written on the supernatural elements, because S.T. Coleridge, one of the romantic poets, S.T. Coleridge has written a ballad. The name of the ballad is Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. So it is a ballad written on supernatural elements. Supernaturalism is there. Supernatural elements. And ballads are created, or ballads are written on the folklore, folktale, supernatural elements, legends, traditions, and other oral things, oral things, stories told earlier, medieval stories, story of the Middle Age. So all these things are there in the ballad. But here we have that literary ballad, traditional ballad. W.B. Yeats has already paid his homage. He has paid his tribute. He has shown his love for ballad, being a modern poet, you mark. In a modern poem, there is hollowness, there is spiritual barrenness, there is spiritual sterility. You mark spiritual sterility, spiritual barrenness. Everywhere you find. The world is fragmented. The world is fragmented, full of chaos. Full of chaos. So, in modern age, still, the modern writers write ballad, write word, and so many things they also give rise to. They also write, you mark. So, that is why I say that the modern poetry is nothing but a curious mixture. W.B. Yeats is a modern poet. So, you come to the poem, the first stanza I will discuss. The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and day, for half his folk were in their beds or under green swords lay. The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and day, for half his flock were in their beds or under green swords lay. So the poem is allegorical, you mark. The poem is allegorical since it has a moral. The poem has a moral, so it is allegorical. Allegorical means that is symbolic. Allegory, symbolic. In which way the symbol will differ, no doubt. I will tell you. In interaction class, when we come to the classroom, the discussion is to be made. What is allegory and what is symbol? A little bit difference is there. A very minute difference is there. Minute, very little bit, I will tell you. So, the first line of the poem you mark, the old priest Peter Gilligan. First, we get a character. We get a man. The man is Peter Gilligan. The man is Peter Gilligan. The man is Peter Gilligan working there in the church. So the church is in a parish. So the area surrounds the church. The parish surrounds the church. And the permanent inhabitants of a parish are called parishioners. And the entire parish and also the parishioners are in charge of this churchman. Because he has already been given the power by the government, British government, Ireland government, He has already been given power. He has already been vested with the power to govern these people and this area. The area is Paris, P-A-R-I-S-H, and the people are parishioners. You mark. The people are parishioners. And you come to the poem. The old priest Peter Gilligan. The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and day, for half his flock were in their beds or under green swords lay. We find a bundle of imageries. We find a bundle of imageries in the poem. You mark. I will also tell you everything. I will tell you bit by bit, one by one. The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and day, for half his flock were in their beds or under green swords lay. You mark. The old priest Peter Gilligan, the character, is a religious character, religious minded, and also a nobleman, a good soul, a sacred soul, working there in the church. The old priest Peter Gilligan is very old, no doubt. So being old, how can he serve? Still he is going on. The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and day. So during that pandemic or during that epidemic, Peter Gilligan is rendering his services. Peter Gilligan is working for the parishioners. Is working for Paris or working for the parishioners. He had no rest. He has no joy, no peace. He is working for days and nights. He is working days and nights together. You mark. He is working days and nights together. No rest, no joy. And in which way or what for he is working? The old priest Peter Gilligan was weary night and very weary. He was very tired, very feeble. Not weary, but weary, not worry. He was weary, tired, feeble, very weak. For half his flock were in their beds. The flock, half his flock, were in their beds or under green swords lay. Or under green swords lay. Swords. Mati, घासुआ माटी की कहते swords. घासुआ माटी, घास थी वो जो माटी रे. Then most of his parishioners have died. Only because of this epidemic, only because of the advent of this epidemic, most of the parishioners have already died. They have breathed their last. They are under the sword. Mati tole se mane putta hi already. The old man is saying it. The old man, all these things, the old man is coming across all these things. When the people, the parishioners have already died, they have breathed their last and they are under the sword. They are buried under the sword. So the people of Paris are called parishioners, they are called a flock. So flock here is a metaphor. You mark, flock here is a metaphor, a flock of a sheep. Flock of a sheep, that will refer to. And Father Gilligan is called a shepherd. When the people will be called the flock of a sheep, Father Gilligan is a shepherd. Guide and guardian. I will all discuss. I will begin from the first stanza. For today is much. It is high time. Thank you.